part of the Logos conference. My name is Ronald Chen, a working psychiatrist in Hong Kong, and I am the chair of today's seminar. I have a co-chair, Dr. Esther Lau, who is working in the Education University of Hong Kong. I think all of you may know that mental health problem is a burning issue in Hong Kong and worldwide. I've been thinking always about, as a Christian, what should I respond to these great demands, and how spirituality and theology can integrate into the clinical practice or our daily life concerned about mental health. So I'm very looking forward to today's seminar because we have three distinguished speakers who have extensive experience in this mental health field. We have Dr. Michael Wong, we have Professor Sylvia Koch, and also Dr. Anthony Tong. They have a lot of experience. I would say that they must give us a lot of insight about these topics. So today we have three talks. Each speaker will have about 40 minutes and followed immediately by 15 minutes of Q&A. After that, we have about 5 minutes break, right? So without further ado, I would like to introduce the first speaker, Dr. Michael Wong. Michael is a medical specialist in psychiatry and honorary clinical professor of psychiatry, 𝐂𝐨𝐫𝐿𝐴 Faculty of Medicine, the University of Hong Kong. He is chairman of the Hong Kong Holistic Popular Mental Health Associations, which is a faith-based charity striving to make mental health holistic, accessible, and affordable in Hong Kong. Michael was trained in neuropsychiatry at the Maudsley Hospital, London, and was a research fellow in brain imaging and neurophysiology at the Institute of Psychiatry there. He studied theology at Bible College, Victoria, Australia, and graduated with an MDiv. He holds 2 research doctorates in the fields of MRI and PET scan, PET neuroimaging of schizophrenia, MD degree, and hermeneutics, neuroscience, and theological anthropology, PhD degree. Michael has held various academic and research positions in the UK, Canada, Australia, and Hong Kong. Currently, he's the chair of the section of Philosophy and Humanities in Psychiatry, the World Psychiatric Association, and on the editorial board of a number of international journals. I know Michael very well. I would say Michael is passionate about mental health promotion through a holistic approach. So may I welcome Dr. Wong to give us a talk entitled Faith and the Holistic Approach.
Hey, greetings from Hong Kong. So just bear with me. Let me sort out the technical thing. Okay, so what I've learned from webinar or online thing is to have to make sure that everyone can see me and hear me, right? Okay, and we're mindful of the need of the international audience, so we have choose to present in English. So please bear with us, okay? And I'm also mindful of the diverse background of the audience, all right? So rather than a talk, I see this as more like a comparing notes kind of session, right? Okay. In Chinese, we call it 抛砖引玉, throwing out the brick in order to get some jade gems back. You know? So it just it's actually more value for money for myself. All right. So thanks again, Ronald, for your very kind introduction. Okay. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. All right. Okay. So the faith and mental health, a holistic approach, is my topic. And I propose to reflect on this topic under 3 headings: mental health, faith, and holistic mental health. Okay. I'm always ambitious, trying to cover a lot of ground. So I may start off kind of warm up, slowly and gently, but if you notice that I start to accelerate, meaning that I'm quite behind, right? But don't you worry, I will make sure that I will be audible and understandable. So mental health, a very, very popular topic nowadays, and everyone talks about mental health. And how do we start? Maybe this way, 3 simple questions. You may have asked yourself these 3 questions. Your boyfriend may have asked you these 3 questions. Your wife may have asked you this 3 questions, or your client may have asked you this question. Are you healthy? Are you happy? Are you living or leading a meaningful life? What are your answers? I think WHO may help. All right, so just after the Second World War, before many of you were born, they talk about health. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. And that was around the 1940s. Okay, so not bad, So we are talking about something penned some 80 years ago. Fast forward a bit, is recently WHO has this motto: no health without mental health. And I think this is a very, very clever approach, because indeed, I think that reflects our attempt to be a bit more comprehensive rather than just splitting the mind and the brain. I think it's the right direction. And even more recently, I think WHO further fine-tuned their statement. So what is mental health? 4 points. It's a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities. So talk about potential, right? Can cope with the normal stresses of life, number 2. Can work productively. And 4th, make a contribution to his or her community. So when I first read about this declaration, I have to confess that I was moved. I think finally something is happening. But before I got too carried away, I think we cannot forget some of these inconvenient truths. What do I mean? Mental illness is still underdiagnosed and undertreated globally. On Earth, we've got about 7 billion people, about 600 million people, about 9 to 10% actually are suffering from mental illness, right? Half of them have depression, and slightly half of them have anxiety disorder. And more alarming, half of them actually do not get treatment. And in some countries, this non-treatment or non-assessment is up to 90%. It's crazy, I would say. Why? Many factors, but one of the key reasons is actually mental health budget in many countries only account for about 1 to 2% of the total health budget. I think that's the case for Hong Kong as well. And not to mention about these challenging data, right? This is, by the way, is pre-COVID pandemic data. I think it actually may be every 40 seconds. So you can do some calculations, just over this period of this session, how many would have suicide? And as a matter of fact, in Southeast Asia, suicide is the leading cause of death for our youth, 15 to 19. So I was talking to some of the on-site audience early on. So I was actually at Lausanne 4th in Icheon, Korea, late last year. And I'm very pleased to know that mental health is now acknowledged as part of the concern, as part of the Great Commission. So I think the faith community is going somewhere, right? And they have similar data, about 1 in 8 has on Earth has some kind of mental illness. 7 out of 10 with psychosis do not get treatment. And again, mental health budget-wise is about 2%. So this is what I call the inconvenient truth. We have a good understanding about what mental health is now, but the reality is still very challenging. So how do we go from here? And again, because of the diverse background, so I think we need to find some common language so that we can be on the same page to facilitate this discussion, which is meaningful, but yet quite challenging. All right. I think stress probably is an easy concept, and stress is there all the time and everywhere. So you may say, oh, now I understand why Michael wants to be a professor of psychiatry, because he won't go out of job, because the stress is always there. But not getting unemployed is quite different from, getting a good earnings, right? Okay. So stress is a bit vague, because stress for someone can be actually stimuli and motivation for another one. And so stress reaction may be more tangible. So when you're stressed, you will feel anxious. So I put up my hand. That's my experience. When you're stressed, you feel depressed. I put up my hand as well. So no one in the audience put up their hand, meaning that they are doing fine. Right? So when you're stressed, you have problems sleeping as well. I've got that problem as well. And when you're stressed, you may have negative thoughts, better be dead than alive. In Hong Kong, we always think about jumping out of, our balcony, because that can kill. Overseas, you don't have high story building, right? No point jumping out of your window, right? Because you won't get killed. So it's kind of complicated. So I have developed this acronym 𝐈𝐬𝐬𝐿, all right? So from now on, for the rest of the lecture, I will say 𝐈𝐬𝐬 reaction, so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so again, there's some kind of difficult fact, stress and performance curve, I think is a very well-known curve. Many of you know this, right? So basically, at the intersection between the stress kind of axis and the performance actions, there's nothing happening. So meaning that if there's, translate into common language, I would say is no pain, no gain, right? Or in the Chinese kind of, the latest slang is actually, when you're lying flat, you're 躺平, there's nothing can be done, all right? So all the tiger mom and tiger father in Hong Kong will say, talking to the kids, right? So no pain, no gain. So more pain, more gain, right? So work hard. So it's kind of logical deduction, but they don't realize that this no pain, no gain is only true to a certain extent. See the top of that curve, the inflection point, what we call the optimal performance. Actually, if you go beyond that point, it will become more pain, less gain. And I think holistic mental health care, we need to think about that. All right. Beyond that, you become fatigued, exhausted, will have or even have these breakdown. Okay. So this is kind of similar, but I want to use these three words to expand the essence of psychopathology. In Hong Kong U, we have a master course that costs you a lot, and also 2 years, and to learn something about psychopharmacology or psychopathology. I attempt to help you to understand psychopathology within 5 minutes, right? So need your cooperation and attention, though. Okay. Stress, we know that when you are stressed, you have 𝐈𝐬𝐬𝐬 reaction. So what is distress? Distress is when your stress reaction is out of proportion, meaning that the 𝐈𝐬𝐬𝐬 reaction becomes too strong, too long. Okay? So it's, all right, someone call you names, you got upset, you went to bed, and you woke up next morning, that chap say sorry to you, and you're no longer stressed. That's your stress. But for some reason, you continue to be stressed for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, even if he or she keeps apologizing. That is distress, right? But what about disorder? Is again 𝐈𝐬𝐬𝐬 reaction, not just out of proportion, but actually leading to some functional impairment. So this is what I just said in words. So basically, stress, distress, and disorder. So this about duration and intensity, about functional impairment. So in short, I'm trying to make things very simple, without oversimplifying. So basically, how do we become unwell? So if you have genetic vulnerability, because for example, there's mental health issue in your family, so you have what we call, you have a DNA genetic, right? But you may not become unwell because the genetic vulnerability may only give you 50 to 60% of risk. We've got data for identical twin and the comorbidity between them, schizophrenia even, 50% around that. So you need stress, what I call psychosocial DNA, to trigger the expression of DNA. So what is psychosocial DNA? D is deprivation. So give you grow up in poverty. N is what neglect. If your parents are divorced or you actually are brought up not by your parents, so you're lacking in paternal or maternal love. What is A? Abuse, physical, psychological, and sexual. And all these interaction will start your illness career. Why do I show you this stress? I mean, I think we need to look at this biological aspect of health in order to be holistic. What I'm trying to say is actually is not nothing but your mind. We actually have a biological basis for mental distress. On the right, let's focus. So this is the stress response system, right? Hypothalamus, pituitary gland, adrenal gland. So many of you may have learned that already in your GCSE or undergraduate, whatever. Let's call it HPA axis, to be simpler. So this HPA axis will get activated when stressed, and the adrenal gland will secrete the stress hormone called cortisol, and that is the biological basis of many of our stress reaction to other things. Okay, that clear enough? Let's move to the left side of the slide. So shown here are the structure in our emotional brain. Let's go down to the third one, hippocampus. Two further down, amygdala. So what is amygdala? It's named because it's shaped like an almond. It's actually the emotional center of the brain. Right? If you have dysfunction of this, you will have emotional dysregulations and all sorts of mood symptoms. What is hippocampus? The easiest way to explain that is like RAM. Right? You don't need to be an IT genius nowadays, because if you buy a smartphone with 256 gig, it costs you more than a 128 gig. So everyone knows that. So what happens is actually, if you are subjected to a lot of stress during the period when your brain is growing very fast. So what is that period? 12 to 25. Cortisol is actually neurotoxic, meaning that your hippocampus and your amygdala will be affected not just structurally, but even functionally. So this is a very robust finding, as what I've learned through direct research, that many major conditions like psychosis, bipolar disorder, mood disorder, anxiety disorder, or even personality disorder, as a group, they have smaller size of bone structure. So meaning that many of these vulnerable people actually have hardware problems. So we wonder why they're so vulnerable to stress, why he or she is so easily stressed out. Because their RAM is small, they can't handle all those data. And you may be frustrated, why? They are not responding to my CBT, to my supportive treatment or simple explanation, because they can't handle the information you provide. Or their mood dysregulation is beyond their control. All right. So keep this in mind, because we need this to have a holistic understanding of ourselves. Okay. So that is what I mean, the vulnerable period of youth. Youth depends on definition, 15 to 24. The vulnerable period when our brain developed very quickly, 10 to 19. The emotional brain developed before the rational brain. And no wonder, many of the common disorder, ADHD, conduct disorder, anxiety disorder, mood disorder, schizophrenia, substance abuse, the onset is, mainly around that area. And as a matter of fact, if you're a client who's an adult with mental health condition, 3 out of 4 of them would have developed that condition before 25. Another figure is actually half of them would have developed that problem before the age of 14. So this is a very critical problem period. So it's not just the emotional brain. We need to talk about the rational brain, which is at the front of our brain, right? Frontal lobe, prefrontal lobe. Again, I'm mindful of the diverse background of the audience. So let me simplify. So I think one of the essence of mental disorder can be understood as an imbalance between the rational and the emotional brain. What happened? The emotional brain becomes hyperactive or out of control. And there is certain hypoactive of our rational brain, meaning that our reasoning can no longer help us to make sense of our out of control emotional response. Okay. Take note of that. It's not the whole story, but I think that may actually give us some an entry point to the understanding of the biological dimension. Okay. The other thing that we need to understand is actually our brain is an electrical chemical system. So nerves talk to each other through neurotransmitter, which is chemical. All right. So I want to use this to challenge the very derogatory Cantonese saying, what do we call those with mental illness? We call it teasing. Your nerves get stuck. You can challenge them now when you do desynchronization, right? Our nerve never got stuck. It's something to do with chemical. And because of that, serotonin is one of the neurotransmitter. So when serotonin is low, we have anxiety and depression. That's why we psychiatrists give them medication called SSRI to boost up the serotonin. So we psychiatrists do not do that to help the pharma to earn money. So that's not the reason. It's because of this neurochemical reason. And what about dopamine? If you have too much dopamine, you become psychotic. So many medications try to damp that down. So that's why we have. And also mental illness is a brain disorder. But you say, no, brain disorder is like a stroke. When you have a stroke on the left, your right side kind of paralyzed. But mental health problem, your arding reaction so kind of diverse, so vague, so intangible, But I hope this diagram help you show that, because it's a chemical disorder, and you see the distribution of this chemical network is actually quite wide, all right? Touching upon different part of the brain. So therefore, when you have chemical disturbance, the symptoms will be very diverse. So mental illness in the 21st century should be understood as a brain disorder with chemical disturbance, which is different from the usual brain disorder like a stroke or Parkinson's disease or multiple sclerosis, which involve very localized kind of difficulties, all right? So that's another way to help you. I just want to convince you or remind you that there is a biological dimension to mental disorder. So I think we need that to be the foundation or the fundamental point for us to advance our understanding of holistic mental care that I want to achieve today. So by now, you know that it's complicated in terms of the causation of mental illness. And this is nothing new. Engel has already mentioned this biopsychosocial model about half a century ago. Okay. And today I want to, dialogue with this model through our faith tradition. And I argue that this will give us a more holistic understanding of the person and mental illness. So I challenge every one of you in the 21st century, when we look at mental health issue, we can no longer just look at the behavior and the environment. We need to be informed or bear in mind there is a neurobiological factor, not just at the system level, the whole brain network that I've just shown you, but also at the cellular, how nerves talk to each other, and the molecular basis, meaning a neurochemical. So congratulations over the past, Ronald, is it 50 minutes? So I've already make you informed that you're already now neurobiological informed, and together you have a grasp of the essence of psychopathology. Now, although you can't make diagnosis, you know how to distinguish between disorder or just stress and distress, right? If you still cannot follow, doesn't matter. It's not your fault. I might have done something wrong, all right? I apologize for that. And this is the last slide of, not quite the last slide, but I think, in here, forget the upper part. I want you to look at the lower part. Two graphs, a solid line and a dotted line. What is that? The solid line is actually a trace of the progress of dysfunction from birth to old age for someone who has biological DNA and or psychosocial DNA. What is the dotted line? The dotted line is what I want to show you. Is actually if a person get intervention, whatever intervention, biological, psychosocial, or spiritual intervention, although you will not be able to completely eliminate dysfunction, although that's a possibility, you actually can kind of minimize or reduce dysfunction. Amazing. So that's why nowadays we talk about early detection, early intervention. And I would argue that many of the problem has all to do with the spirituality. It's not necessarily about religious kind of thing. It's about meaning, purpose, values, significance. And just by talking about that, maybe being a good parent, good mentor, good peer, helping them to address these kind of issues which our society no longer talk about, our education no longer teach about. I think that actually happened. So it's not just conceptual. Just to refer you to one of the studies that we Hong Kong U did over the past 5 years. So the project in essence is actually we have 8 youth mental health centers run by youth workers. They're not even mental health social worker. Youth worker trained through a time-limited program. And they give low-intensity intervention. They're not even counseling, or they may do CPT inform, whatever. And what did we manage to accept? I'll spare you of all these, statistical summary. We'll go to the outline or the output. So within the program, we show that, we achieve significant reduction in distress over 3 months. And by 1 year, we actually managed to reduce the risk of common mental disorder. And beyond 12 months, we actually managed significant reduction in depression, anxiety, symptoms, stress, and improved functioning. And this has been published in the peer-reviewed journal Psychiatry Research. And because of this data, actually, our sponsor, I won't name the sponsor, is giving us another 3 years kind of sponsorship to further expand this program from 8 hubs, which the way we call the youth center, to 45 hubs. And hopefully within within the next 3 years, we manage to popularize this model. Okay, and many of the stuff that I mentioned early on, has been summarized in this volume, edited by my colleague, Professor Eric Chen, and myself. Okay, I can only talk about psychiatrists. Despite all these high-sounding talk, we psychiatrists tend to strain between extremes. Back in the good old days when we talk about Jung and Freud, we neglected neurobiology. So we have been kind of labeled the brainless one. And towards the end of the last century, the decade of the brain, so with the advances in neurobiology, we swing to become over-focusing on neurobiology to the extent that we becomes minors. To be fair, we do pay attention to religion and spirituality for some 30 years now in the US, in the UK, and at the global level, World Psychiatry Association, which I'm involved in. I'm actually the lead psychiatrist drafting the position statement for the Australian and New Zealand College. But despite all this effort, right, we even designed questionnaire, all right, in spiritual assessment, part of the clinical assessment, what we call FICA. We ask about faith and belief, how important faith and belief is to our client, whether they're involved in any faith community, and whether they agree to address this issue during our consultation. Our discipline continued to be rather ambivalent, if not negligent, about the role of culture, religion, and spirituality to mental health. Okay. So that's ended the first session. So what about faith? How do we dialogue? I think that is the next phase, right? So Ronald, please remind me of how I'm going, all right? So, all right, if you want me to shut up, just tell me so. All right, okay. So, okay, yeah. So this is the, again, Lausanne 4. I'm pleased to notice that they try to look at what it means to be a human, understanding humanness, because it has become one of the key concerns. All right. So why is the fact that stress is there all the time, everywhere? I think let's go back to Rome the 8th. All right. So we belong to a groaning creation, right? And that is because of our alienation with our Lord. All right. We're in the paradise lost. We choose to separate from them. So kind of we have lost our identity at Rome. I'm being very brief here, bear with me, all right? So so I want to set the scene and set the agenda. So we no longer have the answer, or we no longer be able to ask some basic question. Who am I? What can I do? What should I do? What will I do? And throughout the human history, we have attempted to understand ourselves through various modern area. We use the notion of soul to understand ourselves. When philosophy emerges, mind, reason has become a method. When brain sciences emerge, some even say we are nothing but the brain. And postmodern period is more like a rebellion of all those previous notions. We think everything is being constructed or deconstructed. It's very subjective. But for Christian, I think we should talk about nothing but the soul, nothing but the mind, nothing but the brain, but nothing but the person. We talk about the whole person. And I think we Christian can use 3 approaches: clinical hermeneutics, values-based practice, and person-centered medicine to unpack this. I'm mindful of the time, so bear with me when I start to accelerate now, so you know that I'm getting desperate now, all right? Okay, so Luke chapter 2, 10 minutes. Okay, not too bad. 10 minutes, I can do quite a bit. So 52, all right? And Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. Do you know who Luke is? Of course, one of the gospel. He's a doctor, right? So, so all the exegesis expert here, don't kill me, all right? So I would say Luke 2:52 is actually a medical report or health report by Dr. Luke of Jesus. God become man, right? So health is what? Growing wisdom, which is psychological, stature physical, in favor of God and man is relationship, spiritual, and man. And what is the relationship? Mark 12:30 is all about love, with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. And also you have to love it. Furthermore, I think our faith tradition, we talk about Great Commandment and Great Commission, is that love God and man, go and make disciples. So basically, I think this has a lot to do with our state of well-being. So it's to care and share. What is good news? In a sense, it is the good news of the true meaning of being human to people and to God around us. And what is the purpose of life? John 10:10, one of my favorite words. I've come that they may have life and have it to the full. So we know that life is not just stress everywhere all the time. It actually can be a blessed and full life. So what does that mean? So personal wellness involves actually leading a happy, healthy, and meaningful life. And to understand and promote mental health, one needs to look at not only the physical, psychological, social, but spiritual dimension of our being. So in red here, I think to be Christian is to be Christ-like. So mental health, to be a human, is to grow, and not just grow, but mature as a whole person like Christ. So as human being, we are to care and share an abundant and fulfilled life as an individual in an integrated community and be free from personal fragmentation and interpersonal alienation. So that's my very kind of brief attempt of dialogue between faith and biopsychosocial. So open to Q&A later on, all right? So 7 minutes? Okay. Holistic mental health care. All right, so I should be able to just make it, all right? So I think this is the quick key question. How can we deliver quality care and support to our patients and clients in an informed and faith-based manner? Okay. I base this discussion from 3 of my publications. The one on the left, recur and the discourse of the person, something to do with clinical hermeneutics. The one in the middle, values-based mental health. The left, a centennial celebration of my alma mater, Melbourne School of Theology, about actual health and well-being, all right? And I'm also informed by the motto of my association, which I share, which tries to make mental health holistic, accessible, and affordable, okay? So holistic is actually look at the whole person, is health, not just mental health, all right? Remember, no health without mental health. And we acknowledge just everyone is different. So a lot of factors, including path of recovery. So it's important for us when we interact with another person not to assume anything and to listen rather than preemptively conclude, all right? So this is what I've just mentioned, just to recap about potential coping, productiveness, and contribution. All right, so what is person-centered medicine? So basically it involves the challenges to put clinical information of different nature together. So which includes some scientific data, which is quantitative, but also qualitative. I've already mentioned that mental illness is a new psychiatric disorder. It's not only so, but also a disorder of social relationship, environmental, ecological adaptation. So we have to acknowledge, although neuroscience is important, but per se, it lacked semantics to help us to talk about the illness experience. So that's why we need to be holistic, all right? So for quantitative data, for example, because dopamine is high, so you become psychotic. So it's more like an explanation, cause and effect, all right? But when someone no longer loves you, so how do you do causal relationship, all right? So it's about understanding, about significance and meaning, okay? So, and we know that it is irreducible to each other. So what I'm trying to say here, we always talk about integration. I personally don't like integration because it kind of leads you to think about, you will mention that you're trying to put several ways of talking into one single way of talking. And I think it can't be done because if you do it, you will actually be reducing things, making the era of reductionism. So it's not through emerging, but it actually is through a way of promoting dialogue, what I call a therapeutic hermeneutic cycle, okay? So what does that mean? Let me give a quick kind of case report. So this is a patient who, towards the end of the psychotherapy with me, so Peter, it is a pseudonym, so to prevent confidential. So I'm happy, healthy, and fulfilled, which is an ordinary discourse, because I take SSRI, antidepressant to correct my chemical imbalance in the brain, which is neuroscientific discourse, except I'm a free, rational, moral being with rights and responsibility, which is philosophical discourse, and believes that God creates me in his image and shows me the truth, goodness, and beauty, and empowers me to experience faith, hope, and love, religious discourse. I paraphrase a bit, all right? So he talks about his vaccine in a very different way. Right? The person-centered is an example of person-centered medicine, allows Peter to explain what is relevant to this person as a patient. So it consists of ordinary language as well as neuroscientific, philosophical, and religious discourses oriented by the notions of to explain more in order to understand better. So this is how hermeneutics. So we don't try to combine them into one single discourse. You can't do that. But each discourse gives you explanation and make you understand better. The personal narrative allows the interaction between the whole and the past, and between explanation and understanding. So sorry about the rush. The whole is about the general sense of well-being. The past about the specific basis or correlate of well-being. On its own, each discourse is univocal explanation of well-being. The neuroscientific discourse about chemical balance, the philosophical discourse of ontological, epistemological, ethical identity, agency, and the religious discourse of field anthropological nature and capacity. Together, they provide rich and comprehensive multi-level understanding of the person without reductionism. All right. So I'll speak because I'm repeating myself. So well-based medicine basically is an antidote to evidence-based medicine. So time only allows me to do that. I can unpack that a bit more later on. All right. So holistic mental health, following the above discussion, basically puts patients first. Person focus is no longer fit them into restrictive, oversimplistic diagnostic categories or reductionist framework. By that, I mean nothing but your soul, brain, mind, or self. It's also kind center. Let them have a voice telling us that what they really experience, need, and want. It promotes the dialogue between three traditions of ideas: religious, which is belief and practice; philosophical thinking and reasoning; scientific observation, measurements, and correlation; and also a holistic approach to lived experience, overcoming fragmentation and alienation. So we regain our personal identity and relationship due to the use of reductive language and not privileging particular discourse. So also contribute to general skills in communication relationship, promote our capacity to think, courage to speak, commitment to listen, and ability to care. And this is the final slides, Mr. Chairman. So Christian faith-based holistic mental health care in the 20th century, by that I would argue, it addresses what it really matters and what it really works. It shows us growing and maturing in a holistic, that is biopsychosocial and spiritual manner, is Christ-like, with a full and rich lived experience. It nurtures real resilience to most problems that do not go away and or we have no control on. And this resilience comes from where? From the fact that God became man and suffered and died, but rose again. So we only remember Easter not too long ago. And I'll not show us what pain, suffering, dying, and death is like. They did not have the final say on our health and well-being. Now, God is full of grace and mercy, understands our pain and suffering with empathy and compassion that is more than any counselor, psychologist, or psychiatrist can give us. It equips Christian mental health practitioner, that is ourselves or carers, with the strength and courage that they need to journey with the patients, even when pain and suffering prevail. This strength and courage comes from what? The knowledge of who we are, what we can do, what we should do, and what we will do. And last but not least, our capacity to care and share, which is an action of the Great Commandment and Great Commission, is firmly rooted in our human relatedness, which is created in the image of the relationality of our Trinity God. Thanks very much for your patience and attention. So it's Q&A time.
Thank you very much, Michael. Sorry for about the limited time for you to give your talk. But I think within the very short period of time, you enlightened us a lot. So because of the time limitation, I would say we can take only one questions. If you have any question, please ask from the audience here or on the from the Zoom.
or you can even type that in the chat box.
At the end of the conference, if we have time, we can have a panel discussions. It depends if we have time.
Yeah, I think you can address the questions in
Yeah.
Chinese, in Cantonese,
or
whatever.
All sorts of language.
Not Greek and Hebrew.
I think you know that.
I've given that back
to all
my lecturers.
You know that. Okay, any question from the Zoom? No. So perhaps we can take a 5 minutes break. We have snacks and drink outside. So we come back 5 minutes later.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take a seat and we will start our next session. Okay, welcome back to our second presentation today. We have the privilege of having Professor Sylvia Kwok. She is a professor in the Department of Social and Behavioral Sciences and the Associate Dean in the 𝐂𝐨𝐫𝐿 School of Graduate Studies at the City University of Hong Kong. Professor Kwok's research mainly focuses on the family, ecological, and positive psychological factors that are related to child and adolescent mental health. She has published over 80 papers related to this topic in very high impact international journals. In addition to that, actually, Professor Kwok has been deeply engaged in the community to promote child and adolescent and actually also family mental health. She has a lot to share with us today, so I better pass the time to Professor Kwok. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther, for introducing me. First of all, I will share a survey conducted from 2020 to 2023 on the mental health of primary and secondary school students in Hong Kong. And then after that, I will share a positive education, whole school positive education project conducted in a primary school, and also share the effectiveness. Yeah. The survey was conducted in 8 primary schools and 10 secondary schools. You can see that we collect the data from a number of students, teachers, and parents. And for the parents, we measure their well-being, loneliness, negative emotion, use of character strength, depression, anxiety, stress level. And there are about 50 male and female, and they are from primary 4 to primary 6. Over 74.7% of the students rated their overall well-being as moderate or above, but also 15% feel a high sense of loneliness. And then 70% rated their positive emotion as moderate or above, and but also 7.6% have a high negative emotion evaluation. And then 68% rated their personal meaning as moderate or above, and 64% have an accomplishment evaluation as moderate or above. 80% evaluate their strength views as moderate or above, and 30% of them experience moderate or high levels of depressive symptoms, and 20% have a moderate or high level of anxiety symptom. So this we should take a note of this. And we also collect the qualitative feedback because we have run some positive education programs in their schools, and they share that the positive education courses help them to learn different methods for solving problems and facing challenges, and also motivate them and enable them to achieve different degrees of success and a sense of accomplishment. And also, after the different activities, because we have activities such as mindfulness, also making the soul jars, help them relax, and also when they face challenges, this can help them encourage their communication and sharing among their schoolmates, and also provide them a space to relieve stress and learn to cope with and face pressure, etc. We also teach them emotion control strategies and assist them in managing their negative emotions, anxieties, and pressures brought about by challenges, and also help them enhance their social skills and improve their interpersonal relationships. And for the teachers, we also measure the school well-being index, etc. And about 76% of the female teachers answer our questionnaire, and you can see the year of experience from the pie chart. 83.4% of the school teachers rated their well-being as moderate or above, but 44% rated their physical health as low. Then 84% have a positive emotion, but also 24% have a negative emotion. 93% are satisfied with their work, and also 95% are as moderately or highly satisfied with the management. They also give us qualitative feedback. After the training, the staff training, they better understand and appreciate their colleagues, and also they have more mutual support and engagement, and they also have a more positive and friendly work environment. By learning different ways to handle stress and also to communicate, they are more equipped to face challenges in their work and life, and they are also more willing to share their insights, express their opinions with their colleagues, and also increase their satisfaction with work and school management. We also collect data from the parents, similar well-being and emotion, depression and anxiety. And most of the mothers answer our questionnaire. Their well-being index 78.2% have moderate or high level of well-being. 76% have positive emotion, 23% have negative emotion. The anxiety level, 12.6% have moderate or high level of depressive symptom. 7.1% have anxiety. And the parents, because we have training for the parents in the workshops, they share that they increase their own positive emotions and reduce negative emotion. This help influence the family atmosphere, make interaction among family members more harmonious and enjoyable, and contribute to their overall well-being. And also they learn how to understand their children and guide their children's growth, as well as they learn different methods to communicate with their children. So this help reduce conflicts between parents and children, and also foster more care and concern, and help the overall family well-being. For the secondary school students, we also measure well-being, perceived meaning, strength, use, resilience, depression, anxiety, and stress. A similar number of female and male, and we collect the data from Form 1 to Form 6. 98% of them have a well-being index as moderate or above. Among them, connectedness is at the highest score. 92% have a subjective meaning score as moderate or above, and 88% rated their strength use as moderate or above. Their resilience score is also high, 82.7%. But the depressive symptom is quite high. 46.4% have moderate or severe symptoms of depression, and 38.3% have moderate or severe of anxiety. They also have 52% have moderate to severe levels of stress. So after they have joined our positive education programs, they become more confident in themselves, and they are also more willing to use their strengths to handle difficulties in life and academics. And when they face failure, they will persist and strive to seek different solutions and view failure as the motivation for growth. Because we help them to learn different ways to cope with stress and negative emotion, so they learn to face, accept, manage, and express their emotion, and also they learn how to find suitable methods to relieve and resolve their stress. For the teachers, we also measure their perceived stress, teachers' attitude, and positive education implementation. We have similar female and male, and most of them we have 1 to 10 years working experience. The 92% have overall well-being moderate or above, but also 27% rated their physical health as low. 86% have positive emotion, 21% have negative emotion. They also about 30% experience moderate or high level of stress, and then 98% rated their teaching attitudes as moderate, and all of them favor the positive education implementation. From their feedback, after the teacher training, their emotional health is enhanced, and also they learn how to face stress and difficulties of their life and work more effectively. They also learn more interaction skills with their students. They have more mutual understanding, and also they can find suitable ways of interaction and improve teacher-student relationship. And also, by promoting positive education, the school policies and school atmosphere have improved. The school creating a better learning environment for the students, and also a more pleasant working environment for the teachers. For the parents, we also measure similar variables. And 81% are parents, and most of them are 41 to 50 years old. Parents' overall well-being index is good at 94%, and positive emotion 86%, negative emotion 23%. But their depressive symptoms is high. 36% of the parents face moderate or high level of depressive symptom, and 15% have a high level of moderate or high level of anxiety symptoms. And then also 24% have stress, and qualitative feedback, they mentioned that they are able to positively process and control their emotions after our training, and also they can improve the parent-child relationship and also reduce the negative emotion. And then we also do some regression analysis. We find that the parents' relationship with their child, parents' physical health, and parents' stress level will affect children's depression. And also parents' engagement, control over the children, and stress level will contribute to children's anxiety. So the conclusion is, I think I don't repeat the conclusion because we can see that the primary school students, they have quite about 30% have depression, anxiety, and stress. And then the secondary school students, about 40% have depression and anxiety. So our recommendation is we need to do something to enhance the positive emotion, self-care, growth mindset, and also overall well-being. Of course, we also and resilience, so as to promote their overall psychological health. And also we need to help them enhance their learning motivation and also reduce their negative emotion, feeling of loneliness, feeling of anxiety, etc. And we also need to help them to reduce, to take note the negative impact that parental control have on students' mental health. Lastly, we need to promote the resilience, use of character strength, and also the subjective meaning through personal, family, and school efforts. And we can help them to reduce the negative emotion, feeling of anxiety, and have more extensive implementation of positive education. And lastly, because parent and teachers' mental health affects the students' well-being, so I think the schools should adopt school-based positive education program to further enhance the mental health of students, parents, and teachers. This is our positive education laboratory, and that's the presentation of part 1. For part 2, can you help me to for part 2, I will share a positive education program conducted in a primary school. And yeah. Okay, I would like to introduce our positive education laboratory first. Our laboratory has been established for 10 years. We aim to promote positive education for children, adolescents, parents, and teachers. And we have collaborated with over 400 schools in Hong Kong. We do the we draft the positive education curriculum, and we do the teachers training. The teachers help us to implement the curriculum in school, and also we do the workshops for the parents. We help the schools to formulate their 5-year plan, and incorporating the positive education concepts. And also we do research. And for this study, we would like to evaluate the effectiveness of this positive education project in promoting the students' emotion, engagement, relationship, purpose, etc. And this is a whole school positive education intervention. We also have a waitlist control comparison group. Positive education, in fact, is the application of positive psychology in education context to promote the well-being and also functioning or adaptation of the students, the staff, and also the parents. It aims to build up strength, well-being, and resilience in the education community. This is the concept. For positive psychology or positive education, in fact, it was developed by Professor Martin Seligman in University of Pennsylvania, and Professor Martin Seligman has formulated the character strength as the basis of the theoretical framework. In fact, he has searched and also looked through different philosophies, religions, and formulated the 6 virtues of character strength. On top of this character strength, he suggested 6 different pillars or elements, important elements of essential elements that include a positive emotion, engagement, relationship, meaning of life, achievement, and also health. And then on top of this, we integrate a pedagogy, a model that is adopted from the Geelong Grammar School. We have the model of learn it, live it, reflect, conceptualize, apply, and embed. First of all, I will talk more about the positive psychology theoretical framework first. For the character strength, there is 6 virtues that include the wisdom and knowledge, transcendence, courage, temperance, humanity, and justice. And then for the 24 character strength, you can see that, in fact, this is similar to our what we call the fruits of spirits. For example, love, kindness, spirituality, honesty, gratitude, bravery, forgiveness, etc. All this, I think, is adopted from Christianity, and on top of this, Seligman adds some other elements like teamwork, leadership, fairness, etc. This is our character strength theoretical base, and in school we help to nurture and promote different character strength of the students. And then for the 6 steps of learning model, for Learn It, we help the students to learn the positive psychology, positive education concepts. For Live It, we help them to enact those evidence-based well-being and also practice the learned concepts in their daily life. And then we help them understand, reflect on what they have learned and understand the concepts more thoroughly. After that, we help them conceptualize their experience with a deeper understanding of the concepts. The 5th step, apply it, means they actually apply and design and conduct some positive education programs and activities in the school and the community. For example, some ambassador program, etc. And finally, they embed the activities, and they build up long-term school-wide policies and a positive school culture, which support and nurture well-being within individuals, schools, and the community. This is a more macro-level initiative. Okay, I give some example. For example, how this 6th step is applied to the students. First of all, for the students, for the Learn It, we have the positive education curriculum. The school implement the curriculum during the some something for live lesson, and also 班主任 for the master class lesson, and also we'll help them to incorporate the concepts in their formal curriculum like Chinese, English, and science. And we also promote some positive education program and projects, for example, in their school assembly, etc. And also incorporate this in their sports day, swimming gala, congregation day, etc. And then Live It, they live out the concepts in their classroom, extracurricular activities, daily life, etc. And For reflect and conceptualize, we help them to draw what they have learned, to write journals, to share this in Facebook, WhatsApp, and also do presentation, workshops, etc. For apply it, we encourage them to implement the ambassador program to spread the concepts and culture to schoolmates and family members. And then we help them to embed it at home, in school, and also with peers and in the community. For the teachers, we help them to learn the concepts in the workshop seminars, and both local and overseas seminars, and also we share with them the books and website resources. For Live It, we help them to have self-enhancement, self-development. For example, they practice exercise during their daily activities. We help them to form study group and well-being staff hub. And we also encourage the school to renovate the school and to have more facilities for the teachers' well-being, like buying coffee or TV, etc. And also we promote their mutual support at school. And then for reflection, we hold the sharing session, presentation, and we do the lesson rehearsal with them, lesson observation, and also debriefing with the teachers, so that they can really conceptualize or internalize the concepts. For application, they apply the concepts in their formal and informal curriculum, extracurricular activities, co-curricular activities. They even incorporate the concepts in, for example, talent show, a school concert, on also graduation day, study tour, etc. And they embed it in their school policy, and also in their environment. Some have declaration in their school environment of the character strength and also the positive education concept. And also some incorporate it in their school report. For example, they report their students having gratitude and give example, or having love and concern for others, having curiosity, creativity, etc. Instead of commenting the student as smart or talented. This is, I think, a most important change in the school. And then for parents, they also learn the concepts in workshops, seminars, and they live it in the family relationship, work relationship. They have a parent-child program together. They do war games, and also they do parent-child dinner together in the school. They have dinner, and then they do some exercise to know more about each other. Yeah. And then we have a workshop for them to reflect, and they can apply it to not only to their children, but also to their spouse, relatives, and other parents, or even their colleagues at work. And they embed it in their family, in their work, and also in their community. Yeah. So this is not only the whole school approach has multiple components, and not only a stand-alone program, and it has the benefit of targeting multiple internal and external influences, incorporating individual classroom and school levels, and it is proved or supported to be effective. This is our theoretical concept for the whole school approach. For the student, we have curriculum and activities. And then for the teachers, we have professional development, positive education training. For the parents, we have parent education, positive parenting programs. For the school, we have a lot of new initiatives in the school policy, school year plan, and also the school activities. We also spread it to the community. This is some sharing, but I won't go into detail. For the professional development, we have train-the-trainer program. And for the parent, we also have a lot of resources for them. And this is our curriculum. Because we have different domains, so for each domain, for example, positive emotion, we help them to understand and accept both their positive and negative emotion, and learn ways to express their emotion, to enhance their positive emotion by savoring gratitude, and also to understand self-compassion, forgiveness, to practice forgiveness, to have empathy. And then for engagement, we help them to develop intrinsic motivation, including the sense of competence and autonomy, and understand cultivate the state of flow. A state of flow means they will deeply engage in a certain task, and we also help them to build up a relationship with others by helping them, enhancing them their communication skills, like verbal, non-verbal, self-disclosure, active constructive responding, active listening, iMessage, etc., and also develop teamwork and mutual trust. For positive meaning, we help them to understand the meaning of life, meaning of study, develop altruism, to understand uniqueness of self, and also enhance their self-esteem by identifying their strength and also designing their autobiography. And for positive accomplishment, we help them to develop growth mindset, develop self-efficacy by self-appreciation and self-validation. And we also help them to understand the hope theory by goal setting, smart goal setting, and also nurture their agency and strategic thinking, and to identify success and failure attribution for growth mindset. And we even help them to draft a failure CV, and also to understand the reasons for failure and also learn from failure and mistakes. For positive health, we help them to develop healthy habits like relaxation exercise, mindfulness, and explore the optimistic and pessimistic explanatory styles. We hope to change their mindset to be more optimistic. For character strength, we help them to be aware of and spot their character strength, and then learn to use character strength more appropriately, to use it to the appropriate person in the appropriate time, and also in the appropriate context. Yeah. And not overuse or underuse the character strength, and also help them to explore new ways in using the strength to achieve goals and also contribute to the society. And we have the quasi-experimental design, 2 school, 1 control school, and 1 experimental school. We collect the data pre and post, and they are completely voluntary, and we explain the investigation process for them. We have several measures like emotion, relationship, engagement, and purpose. And 55% are female, and then experimental and control group half-half, and the grade from grade primary 1 to primary 5. We have some positive result for the primary 4 students. They have significant increase in positive emotion for both primary 4 and primary 5 students. And for primary 1 and primary 2 students, they have also significantly increase in their teacher-student relationship. And when they do the questionnaire, we have our research assistant to explain the questionnaire for them. For the primary 3 and primary 4 students, they have significant improvement in parent-child relationship. And then for the primary 3, they have significant improvement in positive engagement and also positive purpose. So we can see that the program is more effective for primary 3 students in their study engagement purpose and parent-child relationship, and for primary 4 and 5 and in the positive emotion. For the lower grade students, this is more effective in the teacher-student relationship. Qualitative feedback, they also share that they learn different levels of emotion, and also they learn how to relate with their classmates, to forgive others. They learn that efforts are needed for accomplishment, and also they appreciate more other classmates' strength. They can apply their own character strength and to make others more happy. And also they understand the meaning of altruistic behavior because, for example, we have the mentor program, and they recognize that this is an example of life impacts life. And they also learn to set realistic and specific goals and understand the importance of cooperation and complementarity in a team. So in our discussion, we find that the whole school positive education intervention really help increase the positive emotion of the students and also enhance their relationship with teachers, parents, and also help them to be more engaged and in their study, and also find more sense of purpose in their study. But I think we need to have some facilitating factors to promote positive education. For example, the school policy need to be more flexible, and also the school culture need to be more encouraging and relaxing. And if there is a more harmonious teacher-student relationship, or more harmonious relationship among teachers, that is better. And also, if there are more communication and collaboration between teachers and parents, then the teacher can, the promotion will be more effective. And also, if teachers have positive attitude, growth mindset, concern for the students' well-being, and if the teacher have more time and more space to engage in the activity, that will be more effective. And if the school places more emphasis on student well-being and student activities rather than their academic performance, that the effectiveness will be greater. Yeah. There are some limitations in my research. I won't go into detail, but in conclusion, I think the whole school positive education intervention approach should be promoted in all schools to enhance the students' well-being. And to look forward, I think we have a future development for the positive education. For example, it should be embedded in formal school curriculum and school activities, and it can be integrated into school development plan and policy. But of course, more evidence-based research is needed to examine really the conceptual framework and also to provide more evidence for the effectiveness of this for students' well-being and also the overall well-being in the school. And we need to have more collaboration among local and international academics. And multiple teaching pedagogies can be formulated and developed for the implicit and explicit teaching of positive education. Normally, we use role play exercise, experiential games, video show, worksheets, and also experiential learning, etc. But I think we can still develop more teaching pedagogies, and this can be extended to students with special education needs, and we are trying to pilot this in different schools. And also we can incorporate mindfulness training and also expressive arts in the curriculum. And education policy should put well-being of teachers and students as the core focus rather than emphasizing too much on teaching and learning. And I think we need to have more discovery and innovation in the teaching, learning, training, research, organization, resources, and also knowledge development. And in the process, we can involve the students in the design and implementation of positive education. And we can set up a platform to promote collaboration among schools, social welfare agencies, business sectors, and I think also health agencies, government, and universities to have a collective platform to promote positive education. I think this is really effective for promoting mental health and well-being of not only the students, but also the teachers and the parents in schools. Yeah. So here are some activities of the students. They enjoy different types of activities and parent workshop, etc. Yeah, okay. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Kwok. Do we have a couple of quick questions from the audience? It's a really comprehensive program and generating really positive outcomes for students, for teachers, for parents, and the whole community. Really, really impressive. Thank you so much. I have a quick question. Could you share with us a bit more about your meaning promotion? Like, how do you educate students on meaning in life? That's a really hard subject.
Yes, for the lower form students, for example, we ask them to share their autobiography, the meaning of their names, and interpret the Chinese characters in the name, and then use some drawing to express their name. Yeah. So first of all, we start by letting them know the meaning of their name, and then after that, we also promote their the altruism, how they can help others, and also how they can help others in the school and help others in the community. They do some services for the carers in the schools, and also they do some services for the teachers, etc. Yeah, and also we also discuss with them for upper forms. We discuss with them the meaning of study, and also the meaning of living. For example, we have some activities that if they only have 3 days to live, what they will do and what they treasure most, etc. So we have different types of activities for lower forms and for upper forms. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
I have a question about can you integrate spirituality or Christianity into the program?
Yeah, I think Christianity is the theological base. Yeah, and for the program, we try to do some integration. For example, for the character strength, we have the session on spirituality, love and concern, altruism, gratitude, honesty, and courage, etc. Because these are also the spirits, the fruits of spirits. Yeah. And then for meaning of life, yeah, we can talk about this to some extent, and we try to in one session we try to share about different religions, because we can't just share Christianity. We share about different religions and how these religions has contributed to meaning of life to us. Yeah. So we don't explicitly do that, but implicitly, I think, for example, relation, emotion, and meaning of life, all these are related with Christianity. Yeah.
If this is a Christian school, I think that it's very, very good idea to integrate Christianity into the program, because the student can learn the Bible in one way. On the other hand, they can implement their practice into it.
Yeah, in fact, we have a lot of Christian school, and we incorporate this concept in their original Christian curriculum. Yeah, we really integrate the two for them. Yeah.
That's a really, really good question. And I think it's something that we can actually bring it to the session end discussion among the 3 speakers today. The application of programs to Christians and non-Christians, both in terms of clinical programs, clinical treatments, as well as school programs. So that's a really, really good question. Thank you so much. Let's take a 3-5 minute break, and then we will resume and have our last session with Dr. Anthony Tong. Thank you.
Testing. Testing, testing.
Let's get started in 1 minute. And we shall do some photo taking at the end as well with the participants as well. Hey, welcome back to the last session of today's discussion. If you are interested in the topic of faith and mental health, you probably already know Dr. Anthony Tong, but I'll do the introduction anyways. So Dr. Tong is a very experienced clinical psychologist with over 35 years of practice. He's also an adjunct associate professor of the Department of Social Work and Social Administration, the University of Hong Kong, and a clinical supervisor of both clinical psychology programs of Hong Kong U and CUHK. Looking at Anthony, I am very confident that human beings wouldn't be replaced by AI, because over the years, he has been a trainer and a teacher of various therapies. His self-learning ability is so strong that I don't think it's comparable to AI can compare to it at all. So he's a certified cognitive therapist and a certified teacher in mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. And he is the founding and current chairperson of the Association for Contextual Behavioral Science, Hong Kong chapter, which promotes the development of ACT, that is acceptance and commitment therapy, which he's going to share today. So there are a lot of clinical pearls and also practice wisdom that Anthony will share with us today. Let's welcome him.
Thank you, Esther. We are good friends, knowing each other for many years. And the reason I took a photo with Sylvia earlier is because I know her more than 40 years. She's my high school classmate. So it is a very pleasant, special occasion indeed. So the topic is faith and acceptance and commitment therapy, a Christian perspective. And I intend to present in a style which could be quite different from the previous two, because the previous professors, they are very knowledgeable, research-minded, but I'm more a practitioner. I'm very poor at research, I must admit. So I'm going to walk through this topic with you, the audience, in hopefully a more personalized way, that is to walk you through acceptance and commitment therapy as a psychotherapy as well as a mental health model. And, that's the way I learned ACT, the acronym of this therapy. The founder, Professor Hayes, suggests us to call ACT as an English word instead of ACT, with a good reason. So I must admit, for the past 10 years or so, ACT had transformed my professional as well as my personal life, and also my spiritual life as well, to some extent. It is not just a psychotherapy model, of course it is, but I think it is also a very good life philosophy, and I have a lot of wisdom in it. So I would be pleased to, by the way, I want to know, anyone are familiar with or has some knowledge base about this therapy approach? Would you mind to show your hand so I can know? So, pretty much some of you already know about it, so that's good. So my due task today is to introduce the therapy model as well as how we can integrate faith, our Christian faith, into it. It is particularly meaningful, I think, for Christians who are suffering from mental health problems, because very often in my clinical practice, quite a portion of my patients are Christians, but I always felt very sad that most of them couldn't use their spiritual resources to help them to deal with their mental health issues. Maybe, as Dr. Chen mentioned, it's a brain disorder, so it's not so easy. But on the other hand, I think it's also they couldn't find a way to use their faith, in helping themselves in a well-being aspect. So ACT is a evidence-based psychotherapy model promoting mainly psychological flexibility. And I will explain what psychoflexibility is about very soon. And the founder is Professor Stephen Hay, an American clinical psychology professor and a behavioral scientist. And he called this model as a third wave cognitive behavioral therapy. And that is Professor Hayes. He's about 76 years old now, I believe, but still very active in the training and research. And it is his first book, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, The Process and Practice of Mindful Change. Actually, I'm not the first one to talk about this integration of faith into art. There is an American professor, Dr. Joshua Knapp of California Baptist University, who had wrote 2 books on this topic. One is called Faith-Based Art for Christian Clients, an Integrated Treatment Approach. And the other one is Art for Christian Clients, a faith-based workbook. And I must, I'm quite grateful that he had given me a lot of insight into this integration. And if you're interested in local Chinese book, I also the co-author of 2. One is called 別跟內心怪獸拔河. Don't, do the tug of war with your inner monster. And the other one is a faith-based mindfulness and art for Christians. I co-author with Dr. Tracy Low. So if you are interested, this one may be, the one you consult. So before I, go into this slide, I would like to ask you, do you like suffering? Anyone like suffering? You can raise your hand. No. So that means you are normal. You are not, right? The same question is, can we get away from suffering in life as we want? Right? No? Why not? So it's not good news, right? So ACT is in a way rather anti-commonsensical, because our common sense is, psychotherapy, counseling interventions to help to remove your suffering. But ACT started from a very different, a rather radical perspective. That is, embrace and accept suffering, because it is a fact in life. We all have, suffering, because, from a Christian perspective, it's because it is a fallen world, right? Because of sin and so on. So the goal of ACT is not to eliminate pain and suffering, but rather change our response and relationship to it. All right. And how we can do that? By enhancing our psychological flexibility. That is the ability to accept all experiences, including suffering, stay present, and committed to meaningful action aligned with one's core values. So this morning we heard about value-based practice, right? So again, values is really important to us. And as I mentioned earlier, why we have to do integration with Christianity and art, because many believers, they struggled with the mental health issues, but our traditional psychotherapy doesn't have much to offer, in this aspect. And the theoretical foundation could be, as Christians, we are called to live a life of purpose. We all agree that. But we have suffering in life, so we have to surrender to God's will and, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on our own, understanding, our own smartness, our own wisdom. the purpose for Christianized act are threefold. First of all, to help the believers to accept pain as part of life, and even as God's refining process. So God shaped us, right? Refine us through a lot of suffering. And secondly, commit to Christ-centered values and actions. So that's what the ACT does. The A is acceptance, the C is commitment, right? So that's why A and C. And finally, we can find freedom in our identity in Christ. I always think that act is very much in line with the spirit of Serenity Prayer. We all know the Serenity Prayer. I think it is a great summary of a lot of life wisdoms. God, give me grace to accept with serenity with the things that cannot be changed. So that is A, acceptance. Courage to change the things which should be changed, and that is C, commitment, right? And then, of course, they got to the wisdom to distinguish one from the other. So acceptance is willingly open up, embrace all inner experiences, whatever they are, non-judgmentally, although we might not like them. And commitment is use our attention, energy, and time, making choices to do things that are in service of the things we value most in life. So I think, every one of you, if you're familiar with art, you are, also have familiar with this diagram that is summarizing the 6 core processes of psychological flexibility. So psychological flexibility has 6 dimensions. In doing art with our clients in therapy, we are basically helping our clients to enhance these 6 processes, psychological processes in them. And I walk through them one by one with you, and how to integrate our Christian faith in each process. You can see for the left and center, the 4 processes, they constitute acceptance, or sometimes you can, almost call it mindfulness. And for the other 4, the center and the right side constitutes value-based committed actions or behavioral change. So A and C, again, very clear, right? So what's the definition of psychological flexibility? Stephen Hay said it's the ability to be in touch with the present moment, be more fully aware of emotions, sensations, and thoughts. So there's a present moment awareness of all our experiences. And at the same time, remain mindful, welcome, accept them as conscious human beings. So the emphasis of acceptance rather than resistance or avoidance, and continue to act according to individuals' authentic values instead of dwelling on the incompetency in life. So actually, Stephen Hay's, one of his popular book is called Get Out of Your Mind and Get Into Your Life. So the problem of a lot of psychopathology, or the vicious cycle we are in, is we get caught up in our mind, we stuck in our mind, we ruminate about our problems, we struggle without effectiveness in our life. So it's better to get into life, to do things, to act according to our core values. It is the ability to directly connect and experience with all aspects of our inner world, to be open, accepting of our experience rather than avoiding, and less attached to the fused mind, which is language-based and able to make more value-consistent behavioral choices in order to increase life meaning or value. You can summarize the 6 processes in 3 pillars, which is open, aware, and engage. On the opposite side, what is psychological inflexibility, which in exercise is the major mechanism of most psychopathologies, the underlying mechanism. So inflexibility refers to the rigid patterns of behavior in which actions are excessively guided by internal experiences, thoughts, feelings, cravings, rather than direct contingency, which is in the reality what is effective, what is the more adaptive right thing to do, and values, which is what is important and meaningful for the person. So these are most exemplified by two processes, cognitive fusion and experiential avoidance. So this is the other diagram of psychological inflexibility, which is cognitive fusion, experiential avoidance, dominance of the conceptualized past and feared future, attached to conceptualized self, lack of values, and inaction. So now I walk through each one of them with you now. And the first is acceptance. So as a Christian, we learned to acknowledge the reality as given and trusting God's presence, God's purpose or plan, behind our reality in our struggle. So research showed that experiential avoidance actually doesn't work. Let's say if you have a very painful experience, very difficult negative emotions like grief, sadness, or intense anger. Could you get away from that, in a second? Can you use your willpower to get rid of this experience or emotions? And actually, research and clinical experience indicate that the more we try to do that, the more we struggle, actually, the worse we get, usually, right? So sadness became depression, and maybe anxiety or stress became anxiety disorder or panic disorder, and so on. And grief, normal grief, became complicated grief or prolonged grief. So it's the way we cope with this normal suffering that leads to more psychopathology. So research shows experiential avoidance associated with, I don't have to name it, you can see all these mental health issues. And how we do acceptance, as my book suggests, don't do tug of war with your inner monster. Just drop the struggle, make room for them, and let them come and go. And acceptance is not end in itself, but a means towards learning from our emotional experience. So it is emotional learning. But without acceptance as the starting point or foundation, we cannot really in touch with to felt, our emotion in a deep way and learn from them. So it's to learn from our emotional experience and channel them into more effective action. Now, come to the biblical perspective. Think about Jesus. He himself modeled acceptance in the garden of Gethsemane. Father, if you're willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done. So he accepts, the inevitable suffering of the cross. And St. Paul also embraced suffering as part of his mission, right? He always say, suffering is always with me. So I delight in weakness, insult, hardship, persecution, difficulties, Well, when I'm weak, I'm strong. So acceptance helps Christians to stop fighting, right? And ask, a lot of Christians when they have cancer, right? When they have accidents or loved people died, left them, they ask why. A lot of why questions. And to stop the struggle and start trusting God, He will work through it. So the exercise you can practice is a prayer of surrender. God, I trust you with my pain. Help me to accept this situation as part of your plan and glorify you through it. So we actually witness a lot of devoted Christians who do have spiritual growth, personal growth after experiencing traumatic experiences like severe illness or accidents or other, hardships. So think about it, how much you can really accept what God had, intended for us in our life, including the most difficult situations. So the first process is acceptance. The second one is diffusion. So diffusion, acceptance is like more related to our emotional pain, and diffusion is more, connected with our mind, our thinking. So I want to ask you, if you have a really troublesome, experience or something happened with really distressing, would you think about it all the time? Would you think over and over again about the problem or how to solve the problem, right? I do, I'm a very, ruminative person, I would say, when I have some trouble, I would ruminate all day, right? Maybe for 1 week. It's like something caught up in the mind, gets stuck, right? You just can't let go. And what's the effect? What's the outcome on our well-being, on our mood, our, action? Usually make us happier or more, dysfunctional or ineffective. So cognitive diffusion pinpoint the futility of negative rumination. And as human beings, because our brain is so powerful, it's a very powerful problem-solving machine. So naturally, we relied a lot on our cognitive processes, our thinking, how to think through, how to handle cognitively the problems. But the more we attach to our mind, actually, it's like entangling with the threads that it got more stuck. So diffusion is the process of detaching from unhelpful thoughts and see them as just passing mental events rather than absolute truth. So we don't trap in our mind, we don't over-identify with our thinking, and don't allow our thoughts to control our life. So we are trying to look at our thoughts rather than look through your mind. So these are some of the suggested gesture mindset that you can have in terms of cognitive diffusion. And is any biblical perspective or truth about diffusion? I think so, because Paul reminds us to take control of our mind. We take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ, right? So we don't just let our thinking, our mind overrule us. Instead of being consumed by lies or cognitive distortions or unhealthy beliefs or fears, we can meditate on God's truth. So our thoughts do not define us, but God's truth. So Poem said, why my soul are you downcast? Why so disturbed within me? Put your hope in God, for I will yet praise him, my Savior and my God. So in a way, when we talk to our soul, we are already diffusing, we are distancing from our troublesome mind, all right? That is a very healthy self-talk. And we can practice a very easy, simple exercise you can do is you can use a piece of paper, write down a negative thought. For example, I'm a loser, right? I'm not good enough. I'm not as smart as Professor so-and-so. And counter it with a Bible, right? Scripture verse. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, so I'm not worthless. The third process is about being present, contact with the present moment. Because my personal experience, I don't know about you, when I'm very disturbed or under a lot of stress, I usually would live in my head instead of fully present, fully contact with this moment. For example, if you have something in your mind these days, probably you may not be listening to me attentively, rather than you are still split up, right? Attention, still have thinking about your trouble, your problem to be solved. And that is not a very healthy, effective way, right, to live our lives. So, and also being present, focusing on the present moment is one of the most powerful way to get out of our inner struggle, of our negative ruminations, our difficult emotions. So it means focusing on the present moment rather than stuck in the past or worry about the future. Fully conscious of our experience, we cultivate non-judgmental awareness of all aspects of the present moment. Because, you know, our mind often distracts us from the past because our mind like storytelling, like narrative. It's always tell, well, what happened in your past that is not good, you know, you feel a lot of regrets and, you know, grief, unresolved, unfinished business. And we also would think about our future. So the mind travels through time, but seldom stay in the present moment. Actually, there's a research showing that about half of our time in awakened time, or in the daytime, we are distracted. We are not focusing in this moment. And in those distractions, the half of the time we are distracted, our mood usually is lower than when we are focusing on doing something in the present. All right, so our mind is designed in a way to, it like focusing, right? It like being present, actually. How about what did the Bible tell us? The Bible also encourages us, you know. For example, if you want to do praying or meditation, if your mind is jumping around, right? And a lot of, you know, thoughts in your mind, we can't even focus on our prayer, Bible reading, or meditation. We cannot sense the presence of God in this moment. So focusing is usually the beginning step for, you know, a lot of meditative practices. So this is the day God made, the Lord made, and let us rejoice and be glad in it. So we savor, right, the present moment. Don't worry about future, Jesus said, for future will worry about itself. So Jesus also encouraged us to stay in today. The key message is, you know, only if we can fully contact with the present moment that we can experience God's presence and grace in the here and now. There's a brief prayer. It's a very simple one, but very powerful. We can practice inhale and silently say, be still. And when we exhale, You can do it now, actually, and said, I know that I'm God. This is from, Psalm 46:10. Be still is, right? Don't rush in your mind back to the past or to the future, but just be still here now, here. So the fourth process of psychological flexibility is called self as context. Simply, it means to treat yourself as an observer of your own inner experiences, either your thoughts, feelings, or desires, urges. So you are not your thoughts and feelings. You are the one who can notice your thoughts and feeling, and you are larger than your thoughts and feeling. And this is important in terms of mental health, our well-being, because always the problem when we are over attached, identified, or caught up in our difficult thoughts and feelings, our anger, our guilt, our shame, our depression. There's no self. There's no way out. So we have to see ourselves separate from them. And we are like the container, it's a very good metaphor in art called the sky and weather. The observing self is like the sky, containing or noticing the weather changes. And also this perspective helps us to see we are, not our fixed roles and identity. So I'm a clinical psychologist, but I'm not just a clinical psychologist. I'm myself. I'm a precious soul created in the image of God. Clinical psychologist is just a role, right? But many people, they are very, like our patients. I am a depression patient. I'm an anxiety disorder patient. I'm a PTSD. So they are over-identified with their roles. Because of time, I jump a little bit. So we are not defined by our negative emotion or thoughts. We are only defined by God. So if anyone in Christ, we are a new creation, right? As the Bible says. And often we are put too much emphasis on how others see us, right? As seeing our identities. But instead, we should affirm that we are a child of God and we are created for purpose and we are forgiven and loved. So that is a God-centered selfhood that helps us a lot. And the fifth process is about values, of course, a very important part of psychological flexibility. Values are deeply held principles that guide our action and give meaning and purpose in life. It's the way we like to relate to self, others, and the world, the way we want to behave moment by moment in ongoing manner, and often even the kind of person we desire to become. It provides a context the client can be more willing to experience difficult thoughts and feeling when they moved. So affirming the client's core values or your core values can actually help us a lot when we are facing a lot of suffering, hardship, unavoidable in life. Instead of struggling, right, with this suffering, we accept them as God allows, right, as we always said, and then we focused on what's God's purpose for me in this life, and I'm going to act according to the value or purpose. And it is a very positively reinforcing factor, right, in our life. So Paul in Romans encourage us to not conform to the pattern of this world, but transformed by renewing our mind. So, we can understand what God's will, pleasing and perfect will. And God, of course, creates us with a purpose. And the application is whenever we face our suffering or emotional difficulties, we can reflect on what are the biblical values such as love, service, and faithfulness. And that is what really matters to us, rather than, get caught up with our emotions. So the key message to live according to God's value will bring purpose and joy even in difficult times. You can practice by using a value compass, list several Christian values, and brainstorm how you can take action according to each value this week. The last is committed action. They involve taking meaningful steps aligned with our values, even when it feels hard. So it is taking effective action guided and motivated by values. It's a life of integrity, true to our deepest wishes and longings. And as he said, Paul said that I do not consider myself have taken hold of it, but forgetting what behind and straining to what was ahead. And we all are very familiar with this Bible verse. Faith by itself is not accompanied by action is dead. So our faith requires, of course, committed action. So we can think a lot of practical exercise that we can do. So that's how I will integrate faith into the ACT model. Actually, our Dr. Joshua Knapp, the author of the Christian ACT book, he suggested that ACT is actually what he finds the psychotherapy model most concordant or in line with the Christian values or Christian faith, because there's the acceptance, being present, and value-based living. I think that is we can all share that as Christians, our values are God-centered, and it is very, very core to our well-being and our purpose. So just a very brief coverage of what to focus when we are doing ACT for this 4 different mental health problems. For anxiety, we can trust God with our worries and stay just in the present moment, as Jesus told us. For depression, we can accept our depressed feeling without self-condemnation and focus on God's purpose and grace. For trauma, we just practice acceptance and find healing in God's presence. And for grief, we acknowledge loss while clinging to God's promises. So that is my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony. What an insightful presentation as always. And the integration of the Christian faith beliefs and scripture into the ACT model was seamless. Thank you so much. Any quick questions before we may take a short break and then we come back and have a more lengthy or comprehensive discussion with all speakers? Any quick question for Anthony? Sure. Okay, so let's take a quick break. I was told that there's actually hot drinks in the same spot downstairs. So if you walk downstairs and then you go back to exactly here in that location, you can find some hot drinks. So let's, I think so. Is that coffee and tea? Yes. So that's needed, I think, for our speakers and also the audience who have spent some time here. For online audience, you're welcome to come back to join us in the panel discussion in about 5 minutes as we all go down and grab a drink. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you. Okay, see you in 5 minutes. Yes.